Hello, I'm Elaine Tunisian News for Groveland Community News, coming to you from Perry Park today. I'm here to introduce a brand new community news program called What's Up Groveland. This locally produced, hyper-local news program will bring you updates about local projects, events, and general goings-on around our town of Groveland. I also want you to know about a new community online calendar. The calendar is managed by GCN volunteers and is meant to highlight events, programs, and activities that either take place within the town of Groveland or have an impact on Groveland residents, even if the event is outside of town. To be eligible to post, the event must take place within the town of Groveland and or be specifically relevant to Groveland residents. That means you. It must have a significant impact on the Groveland community. For example, a regional fundraiser or an event hosted by a Groveland-based organization. Garage sales within Groveland are allowed. Just go to gcnnews.net to see the rules, the calendar, and fill out a submission. And now we are thrilled to welcome you to the very first episode of Groveland's own community news show, What's Up Groveland?
What's up, Groveland? Do you know what's up in Groveland? Hi, I'm Beth Greenhagen, and this is Rich York for Groveland Community News. What's Up Groveland is our new hyper-local news production that will air monthly on local Channel 22. We'll be bringing you programming about local information, activities, and events. We really want you, residents of Groveland, to be a part of our show. Please send us tips and ideas by emailing our tip line at whatsupgroveland@gmail.com. And now for some local news.
At a recent select board meeting, our town administrator, Rebecca Oldham, shared the results of recent progress on several community preservation recreation projects. 2 projects approved at town meeting this year are already in planning stage. A representative from TEC, an engineering firm, detailed the plans for both the Pines parking and handicap ramp entrance from Town Hall to the Pines project and the Shanahan Field Parking Improvements Project. The Pines project will add 20 more parking spaces and improve accessibility to the Pines from Town Hall, where additional parking will be available for visitors to the Pines. The Shanahan project will create 86 off-street parking spaces for the popular soccer site. The parking will replace dangerous on-street parking while enhancing the area around the field with the addition of 20 trees, 4 accessible parking spots, and an electric vehicle charger. Work is also progressing on 2023 approved projects for the Pines. The skate park is in the final planning stages and should be ready for use in the spring. The combination tennis pickleball court is being evaluated and priced for an improved surface. Finally, also completed this past month is the basketball courts project at Washington Park. All these recreational related projects were funded by the Community Preservation Act or CPA funds. Oldham continues to thank the town voters for supporting recreation improvements in the town that make Groveland a great place to live.
A reminder for registered voters in town, early in-person voting will be available at the Groveland Town Hall. Early voting will begin on October 19th and continue through November 1st. In Massachusetts, you can vote early in all statewide elections. You don't need an excuse to cast an early ballot. You can vote early in person or by mail. Exact hours for local voting in town will be posted on the town clerk webpage at grovelandma.com by October 11th. The Groveland Conservation Commission announced recently the completion of the VC Park Accessibility Project. The main building used for event rentals and community events is now completely accessible for everyone. The work included a new handicap accessible bathroom, leveling the floor of the Great Hall, and the addition of a lift. The lift will enable people not able to use the stairs to be able to use the basement, the main floor, the Great Hall that were all previously inaccessible to some. This work, combined with ramps outside the building, will benefit all visitors to the park. The work was funded by 2 community preservation grants voted on at town meeting. And speaking of VC Park, haven't you always wondered about those goats that mysteriously show up every fall? We did. So we asked.
Welcome to Groveland Community News. My name is Elaine Temesian-Muse, and we are here today to learn about a yearly happening on Nuns Hill in VZ Park right here in Groveland. I bet many of you have seen the goats roaming on Nuns Hill and wondered what this was all about. Well, today we're going to talk to a co-owner of Goats to Go and give you more information on exactly why the goats are on Nuns Hill. So our guest today is Michelle Olson from Great Rock Farm in Georgetown, and I'm going to let Michelle take it over because she is the one that knows all about what's happening here. Welcome.
Thank you, Elaine, very much. Thanks for having me this morning and coming out on this beautiful morning with the animals munching behind us. So my name is Michelle Olson. About 6 years ago, I think, my father reached out to VZ Park and said, you know, you got to mow this beautiful area. It's a great area for our animals to graze, and we do that as a everyday business since about early 2010s. We've been doing Goats to Go. So Great Rock Farm, which was a family farm for many generations since the late 70s, transformed into Goats to Go, and we've been taking our animals, which are both sheep and goats, to different locations depending on the vegetation type. Goats and sheep eat different vegetation, which is why here at VZ Park we have lots of grasses and forbs, and other vegetation we have lots of poison ivy. So our goats handle the poison ivy and our sheep are eating the grasses. So right now Joe, who has been working with us for over 7 years, is setting up more water troughs. And why they're doing that this morning is we move the animals when we set up the electric fence. We move them to different locations. So you have the fence ready to go for the next location, and they're just moving the water troughs over. So one thing to tell you about these guys is these are sheep. We always get calls that I love your goats over there. It's because we say Goats to Go. So they're called Katahdin sheep. That's the type of breed they are. And they're probably mistaken, I'd say, Elaine, for goats more so, which is very easy to do because they're hair sheep. They don't have wool. And this breed is originated in Maine. So they are just happy as can be eating grasses.
So if people wanted to find out about what events are taking place at the farm, because you mentioned you do hiking, you do children's programs, I had no idea. How would people find out?
Yes. So in addition to, there's 2 sides of the business that we do with our farm animals, is we do this vegetation control. And for the last 8 seasons, 8 years, I've been doing classes, events. Goat yoga started it very early on, back in 2017. When I started that, it took off. It was a hit. I hosted over 1,400 people that summer. And since then, it just continues to grow and adapt with what people are interested in. Anything to do with goats is fun. So we do goat hiking. We start that actually in September, middle of September. So some of the goats that are down here on the other side of the hill will be coming, what I call out of service. They'll be coming back home because if they've been in poison ivy, they would have a little poison ivy on their coats for about a week or so. So some of them will come home, and then they'll be what I call my hiking goats. But October, we say, is our favorite month because we actually do a lot of Halloween and fun fall festivals, including dressing them in goat, the kids in costume, the goat kids in costume.
So I have a question about goat yoga. So I'm trying to visualize, I know the positions in yoga, I've done it. So what part do the goats play in goat yoga? Like, are they going to be on my back?
A really great question. There is just this thing that everybody loves goats. You love goats around you, but then you mix it with yoga, which you get in the downward dog, or we say downward goat, different poses, and the goats love to jump on things. Goats will jump on, in the wild, mountain goats get away from predators by jumping on rocks way high up. So goats love to eat anything that's high up. So just like some of the sheep here are up on the top of that hay, goats love to get up. Sheep usually don't jump up. That's just a little bit on top there. But the goats will jump up on anything. So we don't train our goats, we say, but we do a little bit. We have goat treats. We have a plastic bag that they learn from the sound of it, and then they will go up for a treat, and it's an oatmeal licorice treat that they just love. So they learn that if they're going to get up on you, which is kind of weird training a goat probably. If you think about the goat, why am I jumping on a person? But the goats just love to jump up on people. They learn to get up in downward dog, anything on their back. They will get in on people's backs seated. So why it's so fun, I don't know, but it does feel like a great little massage when they're up there. Actually, one of my more popular classes since I've started it was the goat mingle, goat snuggle classes. Goats aren't always necessarily snuggly. They might just want your treats. So we give you brushes and you hang out and learn all about them. Kind of like what we're talking about today, is learn about the animals and what we do with them and why we're doing it. So
I can tell there are 2 and 3 episodes coming after this one to focus on each of these areas. So could you just tell us, in terms of the process with clearing the fields here, what is it from start to finish in terms of time, and I guess in terms of what animals are involved and how you do that?
In terms of VZ Park in general, we have a system where we move from one start to the other, and then sometimes we bring the animals, we rotate the crops. So if the grass is too high, you can see right here, it is flattened down a little bit, which is going to pop back up. But also, VZ likes it to be mowed, so we go in and mow it afterwards. Usually that's not the process that you want. For grasses, that's okay, because grasses are going to come back when you cut it. So the grasses are eaten. The sheep will get right down to the ground, and they'll eat it. But they won't eat it if it's too high, because it will just be trampled, and they can't really get a hold of it. They like to kind of like manicure. So some of it's trampled, which means it's going to pop back up. So there's a certain sweet spot with grazing sheep, and too high and too low. Too low, you're going to unroot it, which means then things that you don't want, not the natural grasses, are going to grow, and it's going to be weeds and other things that will then sprout up first. So you kind of can see in here there's mixtures of other things that have popped up. That other stuff that's in here is stuff right here would be goat territory. The goats would come in and they like to eat what we call high to low. Goats don't like to eat off the ground. It's boring. I'm sorry. Goats like more excitement. They like to go up, like I said, in the rocks. They'll get up on high on something. So they'd like these tall things too. They'd stand right up on their back legs and eat the tips of these or knock them over to eat them. So grasses is not something that goats eat. The grass will be there. They will not eat it unless it's the only thing there to eat, and then they would eat it. Yeah. So the vegetation that the goats are going after is knocking out and stressing the plants. Poison ivy, bittersweet, multiversiflora, some of the main ones that they eat here. Kudzu in the south. And what they do is they stress the plant by taking the leaves off, stops the photosynthesis process, and stresses the plant so it can't thrive. But if you go and cut that, what happens when we cut our plants back in the fall? You're just asking for fresher growth. Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily want to cut the plants afterwards, because then you're just asking the plant to thrive. But when you stress them and you're eating the leaves, it can't get the nutrients it wants to survive. So hitting in the spring, fall, and spring again, 3 usually you can get rid of that poison ivy. It's about managing and continuously managing your land, like what VZ is doing here, continually to manage the land so you have the vegetation that you want. So back to the vegetation with the goats, we we know what's there and we know how long they need to be there so that they will graze what we want them to graze on. Mostly the fence line is for the animal safety so that dogs, domestic dogs and coyotes won't get in there to bother them and chase them. So more so for the animals to know just where they're supposed to be at one time. And also, they would be it's called target grazing when you move them from one place to another. They're going to eat everything in that area. Unless you give them, if you give them 5 acres, they're going to eat in little spots. So you're going to have little clumps of areas that they've ate because you know what? If the more exciting thing is over here, I'm going to go over here. And guess what? All my little buddies are like, she's having more fun than me. I'm going to go eat over there. So they kind of do that. At least the goats love to not miss out on the action.
Right, just like people.
I like to call them extroverts.
That's great. Is there anything that I haven't asked you, Michelle, that you think you'd like our audience to know about Goats to Go or about Great Rock Farm?
I think just that we're always enjoying being out in the community and doing things. It's a family fun thing and everybody really enjoys it. We have 55 acres at our farm in Georgetown and that's where we majority do the goat hiking. And it's just beautiful to be able to be out and enjoy being outside. So the animals moving the poison ivy and other things that you can't get through is a great way for you to enjoy community property like this. So
that's great. And would a homeowner also be able to call you and say, I've got a huge crop of poison ivy, can you help me?
That's what we do day in and day out all summer. Usually the growing season, Memorial Day, sometimes we start a little bit early and we usually go to Labor Day, but we go sometimes like last year, it was wet, so we didn't get out as many projects because goats don't like to go out in the rain and get wet, but we do later into the season too, so we're still doing here, for instance, we usually bring them towards the end of the season because like I said, the nature of how we're managing the land is requested from the park. So,
well, thank you, Michelle Olson and Goats to Go or Sheep to Go. Feel free to come and visit the goats and the sheep while they're here. Just be aware that it's electrified fencing, so you should not touch the fence. That's all for now. This is Elaine from Groveland Community News bidding you goodbye for now. Please tune in to next month's edition of What's Up Groveland.
The Groveland Select Board recently granted a liquor license to a new restaurant in town. The restaurant, Takeda Corona, is set to open soon. When Groveland Community News checked in with the owner, Kevin DeLeon, he told us to follow Takeda Corona's Facebook page for updates about their grand opening. This is the first new food establishment to open in town for several years. The restaurant will feature authentic Mexican cuisine, seating for 50 customers, and a well-stocked bar. The Select Board noted at their hearing that parking could be a problem in Elm Square. A study completed in 2021 looking at the parking issues in the square, several recommendations were made, including creating a shared parking program and encouragement of shared parking in Elm Square. Designated off-street parking with signage, added on-street parking on key Elm Park corridors, creating a more walkable Elm Park and reconfiguring existing parking lots and open spaces. The Economic Development, Planning and Conservation Departments was to be tasked with implementing these recommendations. However, the board has not yet voted to assign the task, and little has been done to address parking in the square. Patrons of the restaurant will be advised to park at the nearby municipal lot at the corner of School and Gardner Street and along Elm Park.
Groveland residents may be wondering how the apartment complex is coming along on Sewell Street, site of a former gravel pit just off Salem Street and across from Chesterton. The project is being built under the Commonwealth's Chapter 40B statute, requiring 20 to 25% of apartments to have long-term affordability restrictions. It took several years and many thousands of clean and inspected fill to achieve the grade needed to break ground, a process that has been closely monitored and regulated by the Conservation Commission, Zoning Board, and Building Inspector. According to developer Bill Daly of R&D Construction, who's overseeing the project, the foundations have been started on the 5 buildings, which will eventually contain a total of 192 units. He estimates that each foundation will take about 3 months to complete. Paving is expected to begin in November. GCN will continue to follow the progress of this ongoing project.
The Groveland Historical Society is holding the 21st Annual Pine Speedway reunion this weekend on Saturday, October 5th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., rain or shine. The reunion will feature an antique and custom car show, including vintage race cars. The Pine Speedway was established in 1940 as a midget racing dirt track. At the time, it was considered the fastest, the most popular quarter-mile track in New England. It closed for good in 1973, but lives on in many local hearts. The well-known NASCAR race announcer and Motorsports Magazine editor, Dick Bergeron, is this year's special guest speaker for the festival. Short track race legend White Hoyt, who died in 2008, is 2024's honoree. Groveland Community News is interested in talking to older adults in the community, and here is our first interview and segment we are calling Hometown Tales. Groveland's own shares their story.
Hi, and welcome to Groveland Community News. My name is Elaine Temesian-Muse, and today we will be learning about a longtime Groveland resident, Sandra Taylor Daniels. Hello, Sandy. And
hi.
Thank you for inviting us to your home today. I have a series of questions that I would like to ask you, and I want you to feel free to add anything or tell us about something maybe that I'm not asking you about.
Okay.
All right, so my first question is, what are some of your earliest memories of Groveland?
Wide open spaces. When I moved here, there's developments up on School Street, and none of those houses were there, and that was like open fields for us. We used to slide there in the winter, and there was a barn there, and the man who owned the barn, New Hall, if we cleaned the barn and brushed the horses, we could ride the horses, which we did, all down in those open fields, down to the old mill pond that used to be there, which it was toxic after a while they closed it.
Oh.
But I also learned to swim in that pond, so.
In the toxic swamp, okay.
It wasn't toxic at that point, I don't think.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So the open space, that's really important. It's very different now. So what was it like growing up in Groveland? Other than that sounds idyllic.
It was fun, and we got a lot of exercise because we walked everywhere. Yeah, we didn't have cars. We used to, I lived a mile from Jerry's, so we probably walked to Jerry's 2 or 3 times a day, so we got a lot of exercise. Plus, we were just outside all the time. Yeah.
So different from now.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you a question about your parents. Like, what kind of work did your parents do?
My father worked for the gas company. It was called the Haverhill Gas Company then. And my mother was receptionist over in a place in Bradford on the river. I can't remember the name of it now, but she worked there for years too.
Cool. Okay. And what were some of your favorite places to go as a child or a young adult?
I'm saying just being outside. We were always outside, horseback riding, and we were into sports in school and stuff, so I had to go back and forth from there.
So as far as the horseback riding, I mean, clearly there's been development now, so it's not at all the same as it was then.
No.
Doesn't look the same.
Yeah, well, the land itself looks the same, but it's just so many more houses now.
Yeah, that's the big difference.
Yes.
Okay. What milestones in your life stand out? Let's talk about you, Sandy. What milestones, what were the big parts of your life that you might want to share with us?
Gee, I just never thought about particular milestones. I really enjoyed growing up here in Groveland. Had a lot of friends, and I don't know what I would think for a milestone, really.
Yeah.
Getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah, here, and it's still being in Groveland is a milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have one child, Stephen,
Yeah.
and now you have 4 grandchildren. Are they all still local?
Yes, yes.
Very nice.
I did have an older son that was, I don't know if you call it a milestone, but he was in a terrible accident with a drunken driver, and he passed away. He was just 25 years old.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but
I didn't know that. Have you ever been involved? Of course, I know Sandy, so but this is for our TV audience. Have you been involved in any local organizations or community events over your lifespan here
Yeah.
in Groveland? Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little about them?
when Groveland first bought VZ Park, there was a lot of work to be done up there. I worked on that, and we had different things going on there to make money to help break that, that place. It's a wonderful place to have anything, showers, bridal things. It's a great place. I worked that for quite a few years, and I was in a circle in church. Faith Circle was women, and we used to raise money to help buy things for the church, like curtains, things like that, down in the church budget. Had a lot of suppers, style shows. I've been involved with the kindergarten downstairs, and
Perry Park.
yeah, Perry Park.
Were you involved at the start of the thrift shop, the Groveland Congregational Church thrift shop?
Yeah, a little, just not very little, because I was working a full-time job. But when I retired, I've been in there full
That
time.
when you
full
started.
time, yeah.
What did you do for work?
I was a bookkeeper at Lionel Valley Company. It was a wholesale meat place up on Winter Street.
Oh, I see. And did you retire from there?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, because I found this interesting. There was a time when at VZ Park, they had the wine and art event, and you said you were involved in that. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was really a fun type thing. It was a different type thing to do for like a Saturday night, because Groveland had nothing like that then at that point, So we had a girl, her name was Jan, something, I should have looked that up. She knew a lot of artists. She was an artist, and we hired a bartender, and we had paintings, we had hors d'oeuvres, and it was just a really nice evening, and it was a way to raise money, and also the artists got to sell their paintings.
Right.
Yeah.
So how many years did that go on? Do you remember?
I think we did at least, I want to say 3 or 4 that I was involved in. They might have done it more afterwards, but I'm not sure, Yeah.
How did you advertise? Did we have a newspaper, or
Yeah,
was
at that point we did have
We
the
did.
Havel and the Lawrence Eagle,
I
and
see.
posters around town, and of course the artists themselves would
Promoting.
tell their friends and stuff.
Interesting.
They came from like North Andover, Georgetown, Raleigh. The word got out through the art people, and there was a
Nice.
lot. The whole place was used. All the rooms were used with paintings and
Sounds
stuff.
like a fun thing to bring back.
Yeah.
You could
it would
be our
'cause
guide.
Yes.
What advice would you give to younger generations about life in Groveland or life in general?
Get outside and get involved with things. Yeah, so many committees or different things have disappeared because we don't have the volunteers to carry them through. Yeah, so
That's good advice.
get away from their little telephones and get out and be involved.
I like that.
Yeah.
What do you hope the future holds for Groveland? Are there any traditions that or values that you think are important for the town to preserve or to maintain?
Well, I think some of them are coming back. Like, we used to have Groveland Day a lot, and now Groveland Day is coming. I think that's great for the different parts of the town to get there. And I'm trying to think what else, you know.
Well, that's a big one. I think,
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes the time changes and people aren't interested anymore, but that's something that's
Like, I
certainly-
think the new pumpkin thing that they're having at the town hall is a good thing.
Oh, the
you know.
Pumpkin Fest.
Yeah, the Pumpkin Fest is good. Yeah.
anything to bring the community together.
Right, yeah.
Hopefully VZ Park will help with that
Yeah,
too.
VZ Park used to have a lot. They'd have sliding in the winter, and we'd have a grill there, have hot dogs and stuff for them down the bottom of the hill, and things up above for the little ones who, you know, could play.
Yeah.
That was a fun thing, but we haven't had much snow lately. So,
Right, I know. Maybe we'll have to do swimming or something.
Yeah, right.
Do you have a favorite place in Groveland?
I can honestly see my favorite place is my home and my church.
Yeah.
My church is a family, my second family.
Yeah.
If there's anything that needs to be done, you know, sympathy, hugs,
Yeah.
that's the way
They
it
have
is.
it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. What is something you think people should know about Groveland that they might not expect or they might not realize? Is there anything?
I know a lot of the new people probably don't realize the Groveland, where the Pines is, used to be a Pine Speedway, where it's now a big playground and fields and stuff, which is great. But there is a reunion coming up on October 5th, on a Saturday, and all the drivers come with their cars, and it's a wonderful, you see the men, they're just so happy to see each other, and they talk about old times. And at 12 o'clock, they say, "Gentlemen, start your engines," and you think a bomb has gone off. It is really, really fun. It's a fun day, and the church does hamburgers and hot dogs, sells hamburgers and hot dogs. So just if you could just walk around, it's really great to see. That used to be, I think, maybe some of the newer people don't realize there was a big speedway there.
I think that's a great thing to bring up. So I don't know if I could do this. If you could sum up Groveland in one word or a group of words, a phrase, what would it be and why?
This is about Groveland?
Yeah, like what comes to your mind about Groveland if somebody said, put Groveland in one word or 3 words, what would you say?
I'd like to say friendly. Hopefully people are friendly to newcomers and stuff, and I'm sure they are. But with new people, now when someone moved in your neighborhood, you used to go over and introduce yourself and bring them a cake or something like that. They don't do that now, but I think it's because so many people have to work, you know, so they're not around anyway. So, but I like to think that people are friendly and helpful if someone needs it.
That's important.
Yes.
So as we come to a close of our time together, maybe end on what brings you the most joy in your life right now?
My
Sandy
grandkids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how old are they?
Well, Tyler's the oldest. He is 30. Brandon is next. He's he's 26, and we have Jared, who's 22 and 24, and Brooke. Finally, the girl came in the family. She's 22.
Very nice.
The 3 boys work for Daniels Electric, who happens to be my son. If you see his red trucks buzzing around.
Yeah. Well known in town,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers that I haven't asked you?
I'm trying to think. Shall I say, go out and vote?
I love that. Yeah, it's coming up.
Don't forget to vote.
Great. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today,
Thank you.
Sandy.
It's been fun.
That's great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the end of our interview today. Please tune in, tell your friends about us, and hopefully we'll have other people that we can interview in the future that would be of interest to our residents in Groveland. Thank you for your time.
It's time to get ready for Groveland's annual Pumpkin Festival. There will be hay rides, pony rides, crafts, food trucks, live music, and of course, everyone's favorite pumpkin carvings contest. The festival is hosted by the town of Groveland and will take place at the Pines on Wednesday, October 16th from 4:30 to 8 p.m. with a rain date the following night if needed. If you want to enter your pumpkin, you can find the submission form and all the information you need on the town's website, with drop-off starting October 15th at the trailer in front of Town Hall. Prizes will be awarded for the scariest, silliest, and most original pumpkin. Sounds like a blast.
Thank you for watching our first episode of Groveland Community News. And please remember to submit tips and ideas to whatsupgroveland@gmail.com. See you next month.
GCN, Groveland's Community News.